can't come with a system of rule that's based on the right of birth, for example, or based on elections, or based on any type of other political system. It has to be that God is the one who appoints, and that's it. So Ahmed Al-Hassan, when he came with these things, he brought a logical argument forth that nobody could argue against. Everybody agreed that actually this is the case. And when they go and they look at the examples of the prophets and the messengers, they find that, yes, David, Solomon, Ezekiel, the prophets, the messengers, all of them, from the time of Adam till Muhammad, were claiming that God is the only one who can rule. God is the only one who can appoint a king, a messenger, a vicegerent. And that vicegerent has to be knowledgeable. And that vicegerent has to call towards this system. They have to be. This criteria is an infallible one. And so, in 1999, we found that Ahmed Al-Hassan was the only person on the entire planet who fulfilled that criteria. Ahmed Al-Hassan, out of all the voices on the planet, and those who were calling towards this religion or that religion, this path or that path, there was only one man who said, I am sent by God. And that automatically makes him the only claim that's worth investigating. Because we don't want to hear about religion from somebody else who woke up in this world just as confused as everybody else and didn't have divine enforcement or inspiration or conversation or instructions from God. Correct or no? When we looked at Ahmed Al-Hassan, what is this man saying? He was raising a book. And he was saying, you see this book? What does it say? And it had in there a narration that was written by Imam Ali alayhi salam, who was the successor of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the husband of Fatima al-Zahra, the daughter of the Prophet. And it was the will of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So on the night of the Prophet's passing, the Prophet wrote a will. And the Quran says it is obligatory that if death comes to anybody that day, write a will. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, being a great prophet and messenger to mankind, and being a man of great authority, he was ruling a nation now of Arabs. He had united all these tribes. There was over 140,000 members of the religion of Islam, and under his political rule. If he had died without appointing his successor, then that would make him not worthy of being a prophet or not worthy of being a ruler. In fact, it would make Umar and Abu Bakr and Uthman, who were not prophets, not divinely appointed, it would make them more intelligent than he was. Because Abu Bakr, before his passing, he appoints Umar. And Umar, before his passing, he appoints a little lajna, or a committee of individuals that would vote on who would be the successor after that. So each one of them safeguarded the method or the appointment of the ruler after them, in their life, before their death, so that they don't die and they leave people in massive confusion. and a group of people decide to support this guy while another group of people decide to support this guy, and they all start fighting with one another, each one of them said, no, I'm going to ensure that before I die, I appoint my successor in my will. So if Abu Bakr was smart enough to do it, and he was in direct communication with God, and Umar was smart enough to do it, and he wasn't in direct communication with God, then the Prophet Muhammad, who was in direct communication with God, must have had done it. And he did do it. And we find one narration, and it's the only narration that's present, that mentions the contents of the Prophet Muhammad's will. And in that will, the Prophet Muhammad says, I'm going to give you a book that if you hold on to it, you will never go astray. So now there's a promise. And the promise is the same promise that God gave to creation when he appointed Adam. If you hold on to Adam, you'll never go astray. If you hold on to Jesus, you'll never go astray. If you hold on to Muhammad, you'll never go astray. Muhammad also says, I'm going to give you a book, a writing. If you hold on to it, you'll never go astray. The companions, they said, no, the Quran is enough for us. We don't need this book. In a narration called the tragedy of Thursday. And so the Prophet dismissed them. And when he was with his close companions and with his successor Imam Ali, he instructs him to write the will. In it, the Prophet says, after me, there's going to be 12 Imams. And after them, there's going to be 12 Mahdis. And then he names one by one by one by one by one the names of his successors, starting with Imam Ali. And he says, Imam Ali, when death comes to him, he should pass on the imamate, he should pass on the divine office to Imam Al-Hassan. And when death comes to Imam Al-Hassan, he should pass it on to Imam Al-Hussein. And as such, from Imam to Imam to Imam, until he reached the 12th Imam. And then he said, and when death comes to him, he should pass it on to the first of the believers. And he names the names of the 12 Mahdis. Well, at least the 3 first of the 12 Mahdis. Ahmed, and Abdullah, and Mahdi. So now Ahmed Al-Hassan had come forward claiming to be appointed in the will of the Prophet Muhammad which the Prophet Muhammad said that if you hold on to it, you'll never go astray. Now I'm forced to, as a believer who's searching for truth, I'm forced to submit to that. Because he came to me with a letter of appointment from the Prophet Muhammad himself. If we say, oh, but he might be a liar, anybody could claim to be Ahmed. If we believe that anybody could claim to be Ahmed and that he might be a false claimant, then this is not a letter that safes and safeguards against misguidance. And therefore the person who wrote it and said that this is a letter that safeguards against misguidance cannot be a prophet. And actually the legitimacy of the whole process is drawn into question. Because now if Ahmed Al-Hassan can claim to be Ahmed in the will, but he's not, well then what stops Muhammad from having claimed to be mentioned on the tongue of Jesus when he was not? What prevents Jesus from claiming to be the one who was prophesied by Isaiah when he is not? So the whole thing tumbles and crumbles, and it becomes an ocean of confusion. And there's no way to tell who is the truthful one and who is truly a messenger from God, except if God was to open up the skies and appoint himself. Ahmed Al-Hassan, then, after claiming to be Ahmed in the will, he challenged all of the scholars of Islam, and the scholars and priests and the preachers of Christianity, and the rabbis of the Jews. He said, I am more knowledgeable than the Jews in regards to their Torah. I'm more knowledgeable than the Christians in regard to their Bible, in regards to their Bible. I'm more knowledgeable than the Muslims in regards to their Quran. And he answered the people's questions, and he wrote books which demonstrated that very fact, thus proving that he had divine knowledge. So now Ahmed Al-Hassan fulfilled 2 of the 3 criteria. And the 3rd criteria is that he came with a banner, and that banner is the banner of the supremacy of God, which is written in the Al-Bay'ah, or rulership, kingship is only for God. The only person who has a right to tell other creatures what to do is somebody who is appointed by the Almighty Creator who created those creatures. That's the system of rule that the Imam came with. And he said it's not a new system. It's the same system that existed from Adam's time until now. All of the other scholars in the time of Ahmed Al-Hassan's emergence and appearance were calling, for example, towards elections, or supporting this candidate of the Marja or that candidate of the Marja, this Republican candidate, that Democratic candidate. But nobody on the planet was claiming that they were a divinely appointed ruler or king or messenger and could back it up with a claim, a letter of appointment by the Holy Prophet or the person who sent them, and demonstrate knowledge like Ahmed Al-Hassan did. And that is how you know what path to follow. And that's how we knew what path for us to follow. It's incredible, isn't it? And when we think about it, we look into the Gospels, we see that after Jesus had passed away, there was clear leadership for the church in the form of Simon Peter. And Simon Peter was not just somebody who came into power from his own self, but rather he had to have been appointed by Jesus before Jesus passes. And that's exactly what we find in the Gospels. Jesus publicly appoints Simon Peter. We find that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Ghadir appoints Imam Ali alayhi salam. So there's a public appointment, and there's also the fact that he appointed Imam Ali alayhi salam and those who were to come after Imam Ali in his will.